In this tutorial, we'll cover adjectives and how they're used in German, and we'll focus primarily on use in the nominative and accusative cases. In German, you'll find two types of adjectives, predicate and attributive. As we proceed through the course, each has multiple features with various endings, but for this video, we'll stick to the basics. A predicate adjective is one that comes after the noun it describes. Das Wetter ist kalt. For example, das Essen ist gut. Das Auto ist schnell, so on and so forth. An attributive adjective is one that comes before the noun it describes. Das ist kaltes Wetter, for instance. Because it precedes the nouns, you'll see that an ending was added to it compared to the example of the predicate adjective. The ending will correspond to whether a definite article, such as der, die, or das, is used, an indefinite article, such as ein or eine, or whether no article is used. Not only does the ending correspond to the article, or no article, but it corresponds to the gender of the noun and the role the noun has in the statement or question. For example, whether it's a subject, direct object, or other. The slides that follow will describe each of these types of adjectives in both the nominative and accusative cases. Predicate adjectives always follow the noun they describe and will not have an ending. Here are a few examples. Das Wetter ist kalt, das Auto ist schnell, der Kaffee ist heiß. As I mentioned, attributive adjectives, on the other hand, have endings that depend on the gender, number, and case they describe, and whether the article is definite or indefinite, or if there is no article. So let's look at examples of these. Looking at this table, we have a variety of adjectives and nouns, as well as definite, indefinite, and unpreceded adjectives that correspond with them. Let's look at an example of each. Der rote Pulli kostet $25. Okay, notice here we have an adjective ending in the letter E. Okay, you probably noticed that this is a masculine noun, der Pulli. The same adjective ending is also seen in the neuter and feminine genders in the singular, das blaue Hemd and die braune Jacke. Attributive adjectives that follow definite articles and precede the noun when in the singular in the nominative case will always end in the letter E. Notice the plural changes. Die schwarzen Schuhe, its ending is en. Okay, now let's look at an indefinite example. Aber ein blaues Hemd kostet nur $18. Notice that this ending is es. Looking now at the table again, we notice ein roter Pulli and eine braune Jacke as examples of the masculine and feminine indefinite article endings, respectively. For me, the easy one to remember is the feminine ending braune, as it matches the same adjective ending as if it were a definite article, die. But for masculine and neuter, they are er and es, respectively. These endings are necessary to differentiate and identify the gender, especially since the indefinite articles for masculine and neuter in the nominative case are both the same, ein. So at this point in your German learning, you'll need to simply memorize the gender of nouns until you begin to notice patterns. While there aren't always guarantees with determining gender in nouns, there are some words and word groups that have specific gender. So I've posted a document in Moodle to help you categorize which certain words are masculine, feminine, and neuter, but always remember that in many cases there are exceptions. Okay, moving on. Let's look at the plural, meine schwarzen Schuhe. So just like the definite article example, the adjective ending in the plural is en. Okay, since you can't use an indefinite article for the plural, for example, a shoes, I used the possessive adjective meine to, let's say, mimic what the article would be. Moving on, let's look at the unpreceded adjective endings. We have the example Deutscher Wein bei Calandros kostet nur $7. So similar to the indefinite articles, unpreceded adjective endings need to, quote-unquote, tell us what the gender is. The only change is in the plural schwarze Schuhe, which is simply an E ending and not en. So you might ask yourself, when would I use an unpreceded adjective ending? Well, think of it if you walk outside and say something like Mensch, das ist kaltes Wetter. Man, this is cold weather. Or something similar. Or frische Milch ist besser als saure Milch. Fresh milk is better than sour milk. And so on. So let's now look at the accusative case adjective endings. These are nearly identical to the nominative case, except that the masculine ending is different. Remember, all neuter, feminine, and plural nouns are the same in the accusative as they are in the nominative. Just the masculine is different. Okay? Here are some examples. Ich kaufe den roten Pulli. Paul kauft ein blaues Hemd. And wir trinken deutschen Wein. As I mentioned earlier, it will require memorization on your part to recall the gender of nouns and their adjective endings at first until you become comfortable. So take it slowly, step by step, and that concludes this tutorial. As always, feel free to contact me with questions, and viel Spaß beim Lernen.